I'm sorry, can I ask one more? I see a lot of allocated admin costs. Is that something you're fixing? Because at one point you kind of chuckled. Is that kind of the old guy who had a lot of weird reclasses or something? Or?
No, I'll let Dawn answer that. She enjoys this question.
The allocated admin charge, I mean, it's correct. It's inputted by finance, so the department doesn't really have a say-so over what they're being charged for the allocation. But the allocation changes every year based on activity. We take into account quite a few things in the activity, which is POs, number of checks cut, number of computers we service. I mean, there's a lot that goes into that allocation. So every year, and it also is based on those supporting departments' budgets. So the percentage changes just slightly a little bit every year. It's not like a flat amount. There's a lot of things that go into that allocation.
So for those, you're just projecting that the allocation is going to increase by that amount the next year compared to what they have been allocated?
That's what we will hit them with. That's an actual number there because we look at prior year's budget, we look at prior year's expenses and the data from the previous year to allocate for the next year. So that will be what they get hit with. Yeah.
$122.
Water treatment, increase in wages, 43,005. Overtime at 6,006. FICA 5,009, and health insurance due to premiums at 7,144. Prior year actuals deemed an increase for audit fees for the water treatment, and they also put in prior year actuals 48,000 for utility services. Increase in insurance costs brought that to 7,207 in the insurance category. Repairs and maintenance 145,000 due to prior year actuals. And there's the allocated admin charge for services inputted by the finance department at 112. And projected increased flows in prior year actuals, operating supplies at 89,190.
Are these just, we were off on our numbers for 145 and 89,000, so are we going to see this on a continuous basis? What's an increase of 145,000?
That's what we're gonna look at.
Yeah, because when you go back and look at actual expenses right now compared to their budget, makes no sense for the increase. So they're going to have to come up with a better description, explanation there.
I see.
I can tell you one thing that's happened because of all the attention we've paid to these water plants over the last year. We've identified preventative maintenance and things that need to be replaced. I think that's where they're coming from. So we had a new superintendent, a contract superintendent that's come in and, changed out pumps and pipes and stuff like that, and probably said next year we need to replace this. So it was done, as an objective measure. And I know it doesn't match up. Like we've talked about that last year about how here's the budget and now you're asking for more and you haven't spent all that. But I really think it's an allocation based on the assessment of those plants and preventative maintenance and repairs and enhancements that we need to make.
So we won't see this type of crazy numbers next year?
The
promising
the
that.
increase is also, their actuals, in 2017 are reported at 128,000, and then actuals the following year went to 142. Year to date right now for 2019 in the repairs and maintenance, they're at $135,000, right? And then the list of the addition, which is on the budget, page 206, we're talking about 15,000 in pumps and seals and bearings, tank cleaning and inspection coming in at 30,000. There's some high ticket to just maintain the service pumps and, all the repairs and maintenance that go into that. I don't have enough expertise to know that this is accurate, but you're talking like recirculation of a pump at 25,000, site secure 20,000, SCADA 15,000. Those are like big ticket items that we're seeing listed here.
These aren't
So
capitals at all?
Just to share
No.
with you, though,
It's a maintenance for
Well,
them.
this is out of utilities.
year-to-date, we're looking at fiscal year-to-date, 3 quarters, correct? So they're at 135. Their budget for this year was already 220.
Yes.
They're asking for another 145 on top of that.
Because of,
So for them to just say prior year actuals, we're back to that,
I agree.
you
I think
know, a more
there's,
specific
detail.
and.
yeah, there's a level of education we're trying to do
Right.
from the finance to say, hey, you know, how do we go about justifying this so we don't have to spend so much and you have to look at 3,000 pages? I feel at 220 with a run rate of 135, they're going to hit 220 this fiscal year. So they're close to that. That run rate and burn rate is right. The 145 increase, while seemingly high, in a repair and maintenance, I would have to look at the life of this,
Yeah,
and I'm
'cause that's
sure it's due.
66%, that's huge.
It's really big, but meters, lines, all that kind of equipment going into this stuff, what I've learned, at least my experience in the last 2 months has been, it's a really high ticket price even to repair and maintenance this thing. And we've seen that, you know, and that's also a lag in these funds too, when we go back to getting our revenue for them, we're not getting them in time too, and we're, you know, putting out so much ahead of the curve to just sustain what we have. I think this is rather, instead of asking for 145, I think they're preventing for us to be, you know, in an area where we're not covered and a budget amendment needs to be done or something of that nature. You know, that would be my fair assessment of it. You know, I don't
So
think.
they're
that-
predicting that they're 225, that they're gonna get to this year, that you feel. We think we're gonna even go 145 for next year, so they foresee that type of issue coming up.
I think so, because I think there's been more attention paid to those plants over the last year by outside eyeballs, and that's gonna identify some maintenance issues, and things that probably weren't done like they were supposed to be truthful. And I think that's where they're coming from. But I agree with Member Gerdner that a little bit more detail will be a better.
And if we can do a vehicle thing where, okay, let's start putting things on a cycle,
Yes.
that if we're just talking about a plant.
And that's funny you said that, Mr. Reinhardt. I just had that, and actually, Brian Wheeler's our interim utility director, and he and I had a long conversation about that, about setting those assets on the computer system and saying, you know, we knew we can replace this pump in 7 years. Yeah, that takes a few years to implement that system, but that's one of his tasks to do over the next couple months.
Because it'd be nice if we can level this out a little bit, or we're gonna keep piling on money. I get things break down, I understand that, but we
Yes,
need
sir.
to really get a grip on this.
I think we'll work on the educational piece of what to write into these things so we don't search. However, I do trust the expertise of the people that are in those departments to know what they need of PM. You know, if it's fair to kind of give that balance that, you know.
As long as we're like, hey, they got to 180 and they didn't get their 220, then we gotta like, hey,
Yes, sir.
let's readjust this, and we're not gonna push for 145 because you didn't even get to where you said you were gonna go.
And, you know, like I said, my easy calculation on that was just the run rate that I thought at this year to date, they will fourth quarter hit what they requested. Then the 145 was straight on the list they had. Page 124. Did I do that already? I'm sorry.
Yep.
Yes, all right. Salaries at 41,003 due to the COLA. Hourly cost increases, quantity of after-hour reconnection of services and greater demand to locate requests through Sunshine 811. 21,000 for that, 21,006 actually. FICA.
What's that, yeah, just fly by that. What's
Sure.
that mean? I don't know what an 811 account or Sunshine means, and 21,000's quite an increase, huh?
You don't know what that is?
811?
So when you go to put utilities in, you have to do a locate service. You have to locate your fiber, your gas lines, your sewer lines, your water lines, your reclaims before you just dig a hole. And that's a service that's provided. So you call 811 and you say, hey, I'm putting in this mile of utility line. They'll come out and locate the service. So
But this is after hours? How is this such
it
a?
could be after hours.
It
yeah.
could be.
And then reconnection services.
We're doing this at night, weekends? What is this? Because it doesn't make sense. I don't see no dude in my yard at 9 o'clock at night.
The after-hours reconnect, that we have to pay people overtime when a customer pays their utility bill and gets their water turned back on. If it's after 3:00 PM, you know, our line guys go home at 3:30, 4:00 at the latest, so they have to pay in after hours. A lot of that's recovered in fees, but we do pay that overtime.
We can't
After-
like
after
maybe
hour
readjust their
reconnects.
schedule and pick an evening crew to do something that might save on a little time, 21,000 of additional, what's their overtime now? What
Well,
do we-
it's a 66% increase, and that's where I would be concerned.
That's a
We're
huge,
doing a lot of disconnects for non-payment.
Well, then if-
We are fully staffed when before we could never do disconnects because we didn't have enough people to do the disconnects. But now that we have the staff to do disconnects and to encourage people to pay their bills, that's truly the only way you can do that is to disconnect them.
Do the fees cover that
The
overtime?
fees, yes, they get charged $85 for a reconnection fee for after hours.
and if it
That's a
seems to
hefty
be,
fee.
it seems like we're doing this, then it seems like a no-brainer to, let's adjust somebody's schedule. And you're gonna come in from, 10 to 5 or whatever it is to, if this is such a reoccurring, continuous
Mm-hmm.
thing, why wouldn't you adjust your staffing to accommodate? It just
Yeah, because
seems,
the disconnects would be during regular
Yeah, you're talking
working
after
hours,
3
I would
o'clock.
think, right? But
It's the reconnects.
it's
Every
the
time
re-
you
Right,
disconnect.
no, but
they're
you talked
asking-
about the disconnects going up.
Right. 'cause
That
this
would
is
be
the
during
corresponding.
regular hours,
Correct.
but it's the,
Yes. We disconnect during regular hours, but if you're a customer and you want your water on that evening and you've come home from work and realize your water is off, you pay the fee to get reconnected after hours. It's recouped within the fees.
that's still 21,000, 66% increase, that's huge. I would think then, I don't know what
twice
this,
that we paid this past year. It just
I just don't.
definitely doesn't make sense.
Why not create like I said, I don't know how many staff members they have, and let's create an evening shift. I think we can, if that 21,000, 66% increase
Okay,
doesn't,
and do you want me to give you the detail on the overtime? Because they have some detail line items if you want me to list some of them out for you.
I'm just curious, what time are they doing it, and can we do an evening shift? With,
Okay.
if they have 12 staff members, 3 staff members, 1 staff member, okay, we can't adjust it. But if we got 7 people, we can do an evening shift if we're doing so many of these reconnects after 5 o'clock.
Yeah, like if 50% are after 5, then it's a scheduling issue.
Yeah, I don't see why we couldn't, if that's what we're dealing with, but if it's,
Well, we would have a really hard time scheduling people after hours, and you don't call up and say, I want my water on. No, I'll wait, and I don't want to pay the extra fee for reconnect. They won't reconnect until the next morning, and then you're going to have standby people on call, that you've paid as a scheduled to be here, and they're not going to have anything to do. So it's kind of like a demand thing. When you call and say, I want my water reconnected, we're not going to schedule a whole crew of people at night if we only get 5 calls. You may have a lot of downtime and you're paying them regular.
I don't know what these
shifts.
people do for a day in the life of whoever this is. Is their job all day connecting, disconnecting, and that's all they do? So
No.
I'm sure they can figure something to do with these people from 3 to 11, I don't know, and while they're working from 3 to 11, fixing, doing whatever, you can reconnect for these people if they have staffing, and if they're only doing once a week, 3 people once a week, I get it, but a
Yeah.
$21,000 increase
It's like an employee.
and into the budget, there's obviously must be a need or demand for a lot of reconnects that might be able to warrant, like you said, if it's 50% is after hours and again, I don't know what they're staffing. How many people are we dealing with there? Do we
Dawn,
have?
is there anything you're reading in the notes that you said you have
I
that
can give
are?
you some details. They have standby, they just have emergency standby folks. This is some line items that they've lined item, $9,100 for standby. And those are for water breaks, people calling after hours at night saying, hey, something's wrong with my water. We go out and check it. Emergency call outs, major water main breaks, $4,800 in overtime. Water conservation enforcement. We've had a really big problem this past year with a lot of unauthorized watering, as you know. So we're kind of trying to crack down on that. $9,984, and then the reconnect call outs are $13,000 in overtime.
So someone being on call or standby, they're getting money when they don't get called.
They, Right. By
So,
state policy, they have to be paid.
Yeah, yeah, so I get that, that's why I'm saying, are we doing anything after 11 o'clock at night? I pay my bill, we're gonna come out at 12:31 in the morning to reconnect somebody?
No, but if you have a water break and it's on our side of the line, we'll go out at midnight and fix
Well,
that water break.
as we should,
'Cause
but I
they
mean,
will
that's
have to
not,
shut their water off to do that.
that's not what I'm hearing, though, with this.
Yeah, we can talk to the department about, seeing if there's a better way to control some of the overtime.
Just to make sure they go to the right house in our neighborhood. Yeah.
I don't water my grass, so I don't have to worry about it.
Does Orlando still live a couple
He lives right
of doors down? Yeah. that's fine.
So is he gonna be discuss the scheduling thing? Like if, again, I think what Dave's saying is a good point on an operations standpoint. If your highest level of connects are at 6 PM, then it makes sense that it's a scheduling thing, and then they're off at 3. So I feel like you just need a metric to speak to. If it's, I don't know if he tracks that, but if the highest time is 6, then nobody's scheduled ever at 6. I feel like then you found your problem.
I'm sure you can look into it. It just seems like a huge amount of money increase of what it was last year, 66%. I just would like to, can we manage our time better?
I wrote evening shift with a question mark. All right.
Simple.
Any other question on the water lines?
27.
Salaries, 15,293. After hours, warehouse worker, 3,510 in overtime. Salary increase for FICA at 3,006. The cost of health insurance, 10,002. Increase of maintenance for the cost for city works, 2,005 in repairs and maintenance. And move by meter software from 34-00 element included in allocation for OpenGov software per CM. Let's see what that means here. That's the allocation for OpenGov, yep, okay. Yeah. I know, I circled this one.
It's 24,800.
Yeah. How did they put per CM?
I asked them to allocate it across departments, since everybody's
Yeah.
using it.
Only had this minor.
So 15,000 came from 3,400. So the net request increase is 24,900. So 24,900 is needed for this new software? Is it?
Yeah,
I thought we had
Yes,
already
20
purchased the software. Are we doing something different with it?
We did purchase the software. The 24.8 is their portion to pay for the usage of OpenGov.
Okay. So it's just moving to another department?
Yes, ma'am. Or element. Allocating, yeah. And it goes to.
Should be in sewer.
Yes, sir. Wastewater treatment, page 134. 18,182 wages, 17,464 overtime, 4,003 FICA, 6,004 health, added 150K for aeration basin, sand sludge removal, and added 7,800 to reflect actual tons of slush produced, bringing up contractual service to 157,800 increase. 65,000 to the utility service element increases to reflect actual usages from 2018. Insurance at 10,956. And repairs and maintenance, 30K for the roof repairs, 8K for RAS and WAS motor replacements, and the 61,000 allocated admin charges from finance. There's a couple pages on this one, so I'll give you a
So-
second.
Yeah. On the overtime request. What's going to happen this year that they need the 17,000 more again? Third quarter, they're at 15,700. They already have a budget of 51,200 for this year, and they want it increased up to 68,700 for next.
Agreed. I can't defeat that at this point. Actuals are reporting at 26 to 17K on the following year, and year-to-date, we're at 15,000. We're not going to reach, I would think, unless there's some 51,000.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a major project going on or something they're anticipating.
I can request to have some notes for any anticipated projects I can't see on the financial, but as far
Kevin?
as, yeah, okay, good. Kevin will talk to that, because I don't have that.
Let's hear it, Kev.
Better be good.
Kevin Felblinger, Public Services, interim Public Services Administrator. As you see, like I said, we obviously had a lot of increases in salaries just because of the salary study last year. And you can see there's a contract there in the 3,400 account for the $150,000. And if we are not able to get that $150,000 there to have a contractor come in to be able to clean out our basins, that's something that we would actually have to do in-house with staff. And so we actually budgeted both ways. We originally were anticipating to do it with staff. Then we looked at the difficulty of it. Those basins that we have there have not been cleaned out in 10 years. And so it's something that we've been kind of shifting from one side to the other. As flows have increased, we are actually don't have to use both of our basins. And so we are actually having to go in and clean them out. And so to have a contractor come in, we received a bid of $150,000 to be able to do that, for them to come in and clean them out and get us ready to be able to start using both basins at Southside. If we're not able to do that, we would have to bring people in and bring it out by buckets at a time to be able to do it, where they actually have a machine that can go in and be able to do it. But if we actually had to come in and do it by hand, that's where you would see the increased cost there, is we would have to have our staff come in and do it by hand to actually remove the sludge. And so like I said, it's something that if we are able to go with the contract, that we would be able to reduce some of our overtime for that.
Why wouldn't we go with the overtime and not pay $150,000?
Because it'll kill our guys. Like I said, because like I said, they would have to literally take 5-gallon buckets and lift them up over about a 30-foot wall and continue doing that by hand. And I'm talking about sand and all these stuff that's been there that's been built up for the past 10 years. But like I said, it's something that we could do. That's why we budgeted it both ways. But like I said, it's something that we will burn out our staff if we're required to do that by hand.
Wouldn't this make sense for a potential budget amendment? Like if you take out the salaries and then you just have the contract, and then the contract fails, then you're stuck?
Yeah,
Would
that's
this
what
be a
I was going to
scenario that
ask
makes sense for
Wendy.
that?
How's the better way to approach it? I get what he's doing. He's just trying to be a smart manager and stay on top of the if or, but what is the better way of maybe presenting that?
Kevin, I like you very much. So I heard, we did it both ways just in case. So we got to pick one. So I would agree with a council member, Mr. Brown, about trying a contractual route and seeing if we can cover it that way to avoid burning his guys. And I may be speaking out of turn, but we would try that first and see if we can run it, but we can't budget it in two places of the house, so we would have to fix that. Yes, we would go either or, whatever would be good for operational purposes for Kevin. to complete the job the best way he could. And from what I hear, burning his guys wouldn't be the option, so contractually would be the option. That's how I'd go and test that first. So we have
And Kevin, you said that the only other option would be the 150,000 that you talked about. Is there possibly another option where we could pay out some overtime, but not burn them out physically like you talked about it, whether it be rental of equipment or something like that? I don't know. That's your expertise.
The biggest issue with it is, like I said, because of the wall you have to overcome, you have a hard time doing equipment. It's very specialized equipment. There's really not rentals out there for it. This company we talked to is the only one in Florida that does it.
Okay.
And so, like I said, when we're going out for costing, it's very hard to be able to do, because the issue is because the weight and then the way the area, and also having to, like I said, pick it up over there, you start getting cavitation if you start trying to take it over a certain height, and we're really reaching the extents of where these are. The contractor we have are the people, like I said, the only people we're able to find in Florida that
What are
are
they
actually able to.
doing now? I mean, I'm just thinking in my mind like one of those cement things. You drop it down, we
Sucks it
put
off.
cement in there, so if you got guys scooping, put it in there, and that machine lifts it,
They-
takes it out, they're not carrying anything.
They actually have equipment that can do it when the basins are full. And so they actually have stuff that's able to suck it up while these basins are full and be able to do that. It's basically a giant sucking hose. I don't know how else to describe it. I mean, and they basically are siphoning it out of there. And so, like I said, it's like I said, but it's a very sophisticated piece of equipment. It's not as easy as just throwing a hose in there and start swirling it around. And like I said, but this is what this company does. I mean, and so they are experts at it. And like I said, with us, we'd have to go, and like I said, with shovels and buckets and take it out that way.
I think you just have to pick one.
All right.
It sounds like the contractual may be the best way, because we don't have the capability. So we'll look at that with Kevin's recommendation. We could, because we can't, I don't feel we can have it on I can't justify 2 buckets, I guess, at this point.
And that is, I mean, that's their price they've given us, so you're just picking and choosing, or you're just guessing, we believe this is what they're gonna ask for?
We've asked for quotes.
Okay.
Like I said, and so like I said, I mean, they're not obviously set in stone until we actually have a contract in place. But like I said, but speaking to them, they gave us a quote based upon estimated quantities.
So then my second question behind that, if we do go with that estimated $150,000 contract, again, your fiscal year overtime is only at around 16,000. You're currently running a budget of 51. Do you think you could decrease that some for the next year as well?
Yes, ma'am, because the biggest thing is we've been very lucky in our wastewater treatment area this year. We've been fully staffed for the majority of the year, and so like I said, our overtime has been very low. We haven't had a lot of breakdowns. A lot of stuff we've been taking care of during the day, and so that is something that if we are going that route, that the overtime would come down. Yes, ma'am.
I would hope. Big time. So we could pretty much, potentially, if we go with the 157, we swipe out that 17
Yep.
grand. All right. You beat me to the punch. What was the 43 account? What's up with that?
That's for our utility services. Every year we've had to do, the past couple of years, we had to do budget amendments at the end of the year to be able to cover actual utility costs. Those are electrical costs that we're having there. Like I said, we hadn't been doing a very good job of keeping track of our monthly utility cost. And at the end of the year, we've had to do budget amendments over the past 2 years to be able to cover utilities, to be able to pay for the utilities at the plant. And so
So with this,
it-
gonna be a one-time, okay, now we're gonna be on track knowing our budget is whatever this plus 65?
Yeah.
Or is it increasing 65,000 each year?
No, like I said, last year's budget amendment was around $50,000. Obviously, every time you increase flow, you're increasing how to use your pumps and everything like that. So there may be minor increases, but this large increase should only be for this one time. Like I said, as every year, we are increasing flow. So there will be some minor electrical increases, but it will not be at this extent.
It seems awful steep.
Well, like I said, but we did a $50,000 budget amendment at the end of last year to be able to cover our utilities.
different.
Was that 2018 or 19?
Last year.
So 18? You did the additional 50?
Yes, ma'am.
You're only at 519 for 765. Dawn, is there maybe bills we're still waiting to come in? Is that one
I
of those
printed-
lagging things?
I printed a report at 11 o'clock today, and they're at 580,782. So something got paid from the time that report that you're looking at was printed in this one. 580,782.
But that is part of the fourth quarter, so, right.
Well, no, like I say, we probably haven't paid any bills for the fourth quarter yet, because you still have July, July,
Gotcha.
August, and September. So like I said, that we haven't received a bill for the fourth quarter yet.
Gotcha.
What's getting the 44,000? What's the roof being repaired at 30K? I'm just curious.
We have multiple buildings out there, and like I said, the roofs out there, but the newer parts of it are 10 years old, and then when we did Southside, there were some buildings that were existing out there that we kept out there, and so that they are in different ages out there, and so we have leaks just like in any roof, and so we're having to go out there and make repairs to buildings.
Will this clean slate us for all the buildings at 44,000, or excuse me, 30,000? Or are we going to be nickel and diming this each year?
We currently are going to be replacing 3 of them for $83,000. It's up on this council's agenda on Thursday night, and then this should be able to final out the rest of the buildings for that.
$136?
So,
Are you ready? Or you got-
no, because I have a question then on 46,000 on page 132. Again, he is only at 54,000 in expenses with a $258,000 budget, and we're adding another 44,000. Or requesting another 44.
Repairs and maintenance, 46.
See, what happens is, I don't know how often they get budgets. I don't know if they know that they're not spending enough money they think they need to spend.
Shouldn't be that big of a difference.
Insurance on that, right?
No,
Yeah, 3 and 10,000.
He's over here to
Doesn't have
mention
the
me.
actual.
There's a lot of little things that go into that. I mean,
Long pause.
Well, the issue is that we're looking at the green bar, and there's 15 or 20 different items that we have there, that some are reoccurring costs, some of them are costs, as I said, because, I mean, it's an aging plant. It's been there since 2008. I mean, it's 11 years. So there's pumps, blowers, motors that are all getting to the point where they're starting to need to be repaired. I mean, there's a lot to be able to,
All this is going to take place before the end of the fourth quarter? You're going to get to this 200,000 mark from where you're at right now?
I'm not saying like, tomorrow we could.
And then you're asking for 44? Yeah, you can't be just picking random numbers out.
I understand that, and like I said, and that's why we went out, and like I said, a lot of these areas out there, like I said, there are some things that can last and some can't, but, I mean, I could, like I said, I've lost, $200, $20,000, $30,000 for the motors in a day before. I mean, it is something that, like I said, it's, unfortunately, it's an operating plan. It's not like using, a stream of chlorine where you're going to use a certain amount, we
So
could.
where'd you come up with the first, again, listening to the difference here, I'm not hearing, you're not bringing anything to make sense to me.
All right, well, I mean. it did-
Everything breaks, I get it.
Yep, and like I said.
But you predicted 200 and something $1,000, you're not even in the ballpark. Use your money or don't ask for any more. Does that make sense, or am I just,
No, I
am I way
understand.
off here?
No, and like I said, and the biggest thing, like I said, I mean, I think we're actually doing pretty good with our plant that it's not breaking right now. We're trying to be able to try to do that. But I mean, some of our pumps are $25,000 a piece, and
Well,
so
let's
like,
fix them.
But no, you're doing a very good job, but I think what happens is we all get comfortable in what we're doing, and we've had changes of finance directors over and over again, and I think you're gonna love Wendy down the road, because you're gonna be able to get information you need a lot faster. But, you know, your budget alone is at 1.2 million of expenditures net for year-to-date, and you still have another million available for the fourth quarter to spend out. So I think you are making these requests because of the unknown and possibly needing more, and you just don't want to be caught not having the money. So maybe you and Wendy can get together, spend a little more time together, and see how we can tighten that up a little bit more.
I think so too. In fairness, all of the makeup that went into the budget wasn't Kevin's development either, so he's kind of catching
Right.
the curve on that. And so, we'll help. We do have meetings to help with certain budgets to talk about, and we could definitely align better. But in all fairness, it was a done product for him, and he's just picking it up now.
Exactly.
To where the calculations, the thought process, but yes, in evidence with here, we won't have that run rate there, and, we can definitely work together for that to give him better data, but I just got to be fair that it wasn't 100% his, and we'll definitely partner with him to help him with that, but, I think he's just at the presentation end of it, in a
Did you
certain.
just take over the department?
my director resigned about a month ago, yes. So,
That explains everything.
so
That's all you had to say. We completely understand.
no, I said, I definitely want to be able to provide you the correct answers. I don't want to use that as an excuse.
No, well,
Yeah, and I
at a
wasn't
month,
giving it.
at a month old, you can use that as an excuse.
Yeah, he knows it very well as
Yeah.
far as what's going in. It's just the development
And
of it.
it's
I
not
just gotta
really an
be fair.
excuse, it's a fact. You've been doing this for a month.
And
That's
we're
all
good
you've had
with
time to put
supporting.
into
We
it.
don't have any issue with
Yeah.
you planning but I don't want to put such a huge buffer and not use it.
I understand exactly where you're coming from.
I'm all for, I know things break, I know things are really costly, so we just need to
Yeah,
help him out.
absolutely. We'll do that.
Damn, we got another one coming up.
Sewer lines,
229,000.
increase in salaries at 11,396. We have an overtime increase of 14,654. These are for that Sunshine 811 that came out before. And I'm just going through them. Increase due to salary, the FICA, the health insurance at 7.4, workers' comp at 4.9, and increase in the cost to locate tickets to the Sunshine 811 and flow meter calibrations at 2,765. Increase in cost of insurance at 6,636, and lift station repairs to include odor control, check valves, and pump repair, 229,768, and the allocated admin charge coming in from finance. Just gonna scroll back to that page here. Okay.
Boy, I'd really ask that finance department why they're gonna charge you an additional 57% to service you.
It's a cost to do business.
They gotta stop cutting checks on that.
I'm just going through to see if any of the annotations that became previous on the other ones,
4,600, similar,
similar, yep.
that we talked about before.
Maintenance repair is still we're gonna get to that number, 265?
Well, like I said, that one there, like I said, those are going back in and trying to make some repairs to the lift stations. We constantly are getting concerns about people that have been living next to our lift stations for years, and all of a sudden, they smell. And so we are going out and trying to be good neighbors and putting in certain areas. We are increasing the number of odor control devices out there. And like I said, as everything, like I said, everything's great when they're the new shiny penny. But like I said, over time, it does require us to be able to go out and maintain. And we are trying to meet the needs of our customers, trying to be able to, like I said, when people are concerned about the smell, we definitely are trying to minimize those impacts to the surrounding community.
And I like to note on this 4,600, I think it's a little bit closer than the previous example, because they're at, 199 year-to-date. They hit 258, 251, and they budgeted 265. And the increase there, are requesting it specifically for what Kevin is saying. So this one's a little bit closer, not as far off as the other one that we had. As far as year-to-date, comparative to actual budget, budget for the 2019, just to note that.
So those repairs, to include the odor control, check valves, and pump repair, are in addition to all of the maintenance that they do during a regular year.
Yes, ma'am.
So Dawn, just to clarify for me, the additional 194, meaning that you think this year that right now we're at third quarter, we're at 150,000 with a $341,000 budget. You think we're going to hit that 341 for that department?
For allocated admin charges?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, because we make those entries and book those entries. It's not something that's done through, we determine what the dollar amount is, and monthly we give them a charge.
And that's what you
every
do
month
for the next year.
for the whole month.
Got it.
Whatever I put in the budget that's on the allocation, that's what we charge them for. We divide it by 12 and do it monthly. And also in the sewer side, they also get an allocation. It's just not all admin. They also get a billing and customer service allocation to get reimbursed back to the 420. Because the customer service and billing is all being paid out of the water fund, and they also service the sewer, so this is their portion as well.
So if you do the 4969 and you do it monthly, shouldn't that 150,000 number be a lot more? Through 9 months?
The adjusted budget, the 341,625 is the adjusted budget for this year. Divide that by 12, and that's the monthly allocation times however we probably have booked through June. This only shows up through June. I'm sure.
Okay.
I got it on my phone.
I know Jeanette has a calculator.
Dawn and I go way back.
Say they're behind, it's only 150.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she said it wasn't
139.
Dawn, that still doesn't make sense, though. If that's 9 months through June at 150.
Okay, let me go back.
Less than 6 months.
I know, I was going calendar year instead of,
It's still just 12 months though. All right, so the adjusted budget is 341,625 for this year.
right.
Divided by 12 is
28,468.
28,468.
Times 9 should be,
And then if I have year-to-date, 150,113.
mm-hmm.
Okay, so divide the 28 into the 150,113 and see how many months has been allocated. Maybe June hasn't been allocated, but it's got to be close. What, is it close? I'm sorry, I don't have a calculator. I should bring one to a budget.
So you're saying it only 6 months has done versus 9? You're thinking only 6 months has been allocated for the budget year?
Is that what it comes close to? If you divide if what's been hit is the 150,113, and if the allocation is 28,468 a month, how many months?
I'm saying close to 6.
6, yeah, it's probably only has 6 months in there.
Okay. Because you said
We do
through
a
June,
true-up,
so that
yeah.
would be 9, and that's where I was confused.
Yeah, by year end, we make sure that all 12
Okay.
months are booked if we've missed a month. Yeah.
5 months.
I was trying to point out the 6 on my calculator, but you missed it.
About 139?
Administration. After hours for the warehouse worker, overtime at 3,500, 3,510. Increase for the salary, increase for FICA, and the health insurance at 4,879 and 15.2. Increase in maintenance for the city works, 2,005 for repairs and maintenance, and then 39,009 move by meter software. This is the 34-0 allocation for OpenGov usage in the maintenance and contracts. And the fuel cost at 8,625 in, for vehicle fuel.
Warehouse person working overtime, I mean, I know it's allocated between the funds, but
It's allocated with water and sewer because he has to be there all the time to issue out water, sewer, meters, lines, emergency repair items. He's there sometimes issuing out. He works on his lunch hour. He only takes half-hour lunch or eats in his desk and to make sure he's there to issue out all warehouse issues. Otherwise, we have a problem with inventory if we allow the guys to go in and get their own items. They forget to write things down, so we
Is this
like to
something
keep
new?
it tight.
Is this something new?
No? Mm-mm.
Because it's a 217% increase for this position, so I didn't know if it was somebody they were doing new, because he only has $395 of overtime this year.
Well, I know that the warehouse workers' distribution has been moved a couple of times between the actual warehouse division and the general fund and with the water and sewer funds. So it could be a distribution change in last year's budget. He's been flipped back and forth a few times.
so you allocate the salary from someone in the warehouse to this department directly like that?
To the water and sewer, yes. A big portion of the warehouse is water and sewer warehouses. We have 4 different warehouses besides the fuel warehouses as well. We have a huge yard full of pipes and meters and boxes and, yeah. He has to maintain all of that.
So you allocate a salary, not just like like you have your admin charges, it's not
That's,
included, it's
yeah,
probably like a central.
we don't include his in the admin charge. His budget, we include the purchasing's budget, but his budget is in the water and sewer, so it doesn't get hit for that percentage because it's not there. Yeah.
What's included in the intra-government transfers? Is that the utility fund transfer to the general fund?
What page? Sorry, what page?
140?
We've already moved on. 140. Intergov transfers, the 1,097,000. Those would be transfers out for direct transfers of 9.5% of their revenues from 2 prior years per our ordinance. Those would be direct transfers to the general fund. The 420 fund, the 430, and the 440 funds, you'll see direct transfers in there.
Do you want to wait for the chairman? We waiting? No?
All right.
Go? Okay. All right. We got Kevin, okay. The sanitation, we're moving to? Mhm.
We've got page 148. Let us know what you have.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. Collections, growth to residential and commercial routes, overtime of 31,528. Increased wages in the special pay category, 3,500. Increase in cost of tipping fees, growth 36,285 in contractual services. And growth to the residential and commercial routes, mail and freight, 2,200. Insurance costs, 6787, that's across the board. Increase in maintenance cost to older fleet, 31,000 in vehicle maintenance. And diesel fuel costs at 16,350 for, vehicle fuel, excuse me. I'm gonna go down if it's okay, and just read those and see if you all have questions, and come back to that. For landfill, wages, same thing with the routes, due to routes, 136.7 in salaries and wages, 15,002 in overtime. This is due to additional hours and staff working in the yard, drive times to Republic and Lakeland for recyclables. FICA, due to the wage increase, 11,079, and health and insurance at 51,829 and 9,775 respectfully. Increase in the cost of tipping fees gross in contractual services, 372,000. The 2018 comment for 6,600 in utility service, and increase in insurance cost at 2,872, and new software at 19,269 for maintenance contracts. Okay.
You know, I remember when Dave brought up the police overtime, because it was such a large number, dollar-wise, but it was only 18%. Many of these other departments are well over 50% increase in overtime. Now, I don't know if that was because they were challenged to decrease their staff, and that's how they're making up for it. But I feel that any department that's requesting over a 20% increase in overtime, that I just think that's a lot of money.
68%.
We need to
Crazy.
revisit.
What are we
Especially-
misjudging here?
Yeah.
So I'm going to submit that I agree at this point, because when I read the variances, I can't get to the point to justify them based on driving. I don't. I'd have to pull up a map. So I either have to get more robust explanation to really quantify that, but I can't not say I don't agree with those amounts of increase in overtime, especially when we do compare it to public safety, and we're at 18 and it made us cringe. So
Yeah.
we'd have to relook at some of these explanations for variances, because I don't think we'll be able to pass them just like that, because I can't tell you, staff working in a yard, what that means. I don't know if that means it's overtime because the guy doesn't want to take his lunch and do 30 because it's whatever. I just, I don't think that's how we should run staff anyway, because we are going to have a problem with burnout eventually, I'm assuming. So this would have to get more robust, but I can't justify at this point being at those percentages.
And again, we're growing. We all know we are growing. It's one of the first things that was pointed out in his letter to present this budget and in your presentation. So, you know, there are cases with public safety that it's more expensive to put a FTE there, but in other departments, maybe it is smarter to fill that position versus paying all that overtime.
Well, and from the sanitation side of things, it's kind of tough because you see there's a huge increase in salary and wages because we had mid-year additions because of the additional houses being put on.
And know that I'm not talking
No,
about
no,
that,
no,
right?
I understand. I
Okay.
understand, but from a general sense, like I said, I mean, talking about talking about having to work at a yard. The issue is when you go out there and on the weekends, we're open from 8 to 12. At 12 o'clock, we have to actually go and put somebody at the very end of the line because people keep on wanting to rush out there and get that stuff, and that's where you're starting to see these increases coming from. Is that we're not able to actually keep set hours when it comes to sanitation when we're running routes. We can't sit there and say, oh, sorry, our 8 hours is up. We're not going to get those last 100 houses because every time somebody moves in, that's a new person you have to go pick up. You can't just go get a new truck every time there. So the guys are running different routes, and so the routes get longer every day as a new house gets added on there. And so that's where we're always trying to. I would love to be able to go out and buy new trucks all the time and be able to add new staff. But like I said, at some point, paying somebody 100 hours overtime throughout the year seems like a lot, but that saves you from paying somebody 2,000 hours plus going out and buying a $300,000 truck and all those different things. And so it is a balancing act. So I do agree with you that growth is challenging, and we definitely do try to make sure that we aren't burning our guys, but we're also making sure that we are trying to be the best stewards of the city's money.
I agree, but the numbers that you're showing me here don't make sense. 68% increase? 68% increase. So when we didn't build enough houses for a 68% increase to go from 46,000 or what is it? 40 to now 31,000 additional to put you at 77,000.
Right. Well, and like I said, and some of that's also, like I said, we did a salary study last year, and as you increase salaries, that it's not all more hours, but it is more hours also, because at some point, like I said, we are having to run extra ones, and like I said, just adding a house, yeah, but we added, there's several hundred houses we're adding a month. And so at some point, it does take time to be able to go get them. And like I said, it's not just picking up one time a week. That's it's 3 times a week you got to pick up everybody. So for every house you add, that's 3 more trips you got to go and do. And so I understand they're in succession. But like I said, it's also going further away from our service area, from our center point there. As we're starting to expand, we're having to drive further to be able to get to them.
Well, then we need to, what are you doing to budget for this new equipment? Because if we're doing hundreds of houses a month, as you're saying, by next year, we're gonna be thousands of houses and we're still down. So you're gonna come back here and I need another 51% increase.
Well,
We gotta be fair to everybody in this city. Every branch, every department director needs to be very on point with their budget and their overtime. I can't
understand.
sit there and ask the chief to public safety and you sit and come in here at 68% increase and you're not even barely at where you're at now.
Right. Well, and like I said, it's something that we are, and like I said, we brought forward at the last workshop for the city council a national plan to be able to come forward, like I said, to not only work with our fleet, but also talk about increases to be able to help pay for all these issues also.
I mean, I think my default is I like to just see more evidence and numbers and ratios and FTEs and all that stuff. So what you're saying makes sense, and hypothetical, you never know what's going to happen anywhere. But if you have a ratio set to it, you have a pretty good idea that every 300 houses, overtime is going to go up by this percent. And then when you budget, you have a number to make sense. And then when you're here, you say, it's usually 5%, we're going 7.
Sure.
That's all I want to see more of that.
Agreed. I mean, I was just, the transfer station, each of them have their own kind of situation too. This transfer station, like year to date, he's already over budget. He's at 464 year to date. His budget was 427 in salaries and wages. 50,000 year to date, 53 in the budget for overtime already. Some of the rates that are established, like you're saying, establishing ratios, and if it's quantifiable, is I can't tell you right now what they're listing as far as the hourly, if that's the market rate, and, because they're pretty high, $50 an hour for overtime, so setting that up, yeah.
Are they going, the one thing about going to wherever it's at, driving to Lakeland? I don't know, are we doing on a weekend? We can't adjust people's schedule to go, hey, this is our evening shift because we're going at a, I don't know why we're not going on a weekday during our normal out, but I don't know. I'm sure you can say, no, they're only open on Saturday, so then.
Like, the county only accepts recyclables during the week, and like I said, and so to be able to meet the demand coming there, because Lakeland's the only place that accepts recyclable in this area. We used to be able to go to Orange County, but they shut down about a year and a half ago, and so like I said, this is the only place to be able to take recyclables to. Our truck drivers can only make about 3 trips a day there, and so like I said, to be able to help try to get as much recyclables to Lakeland as we can, we run Thursday, Friday, and Saturday to be able to get as many recyclables there as possible.
Is there a timing issue? Can we, okay, you're the Tuesday through Saturday guy, and your hours are from here to here, and so that we're not.
It requires to have more trucks, because the people running recyclables Thursday, Friday, Saturday are running to the landfill Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And so like I said, it's one of those things where we don't have semis sitting around waiting. Like I said, they're constantly running. Our guys come in and they run them hard. And like I said, the semis, the only time that they're not running is either at night when the landfill is closed, or like I said, or when we have breakdowns, they're in the shop. Those semis run all the time. And like I said, and so it's just one of those things where unfortunately that we only have so much capacity in there, and we run those things all the time. We don't have downtime for any of our semis for the transfer station.
Look at the cost and trip fees being
Wendy,
so
it
high.
sounds like you are trying to assist department heads with these types of ratios that you and I could probably speak to a lot. Is that kind of your plan as you're new and working with them? And, because I totally get what you're saying. I think though on a finance end, I'm looking for that.
There's, you know, every person and with the transition has a different philosophy, and I was gonna, you know, those were some of the recommendations. Tentatively, what we're changing is, or I'd like to, my idea is to review revenue and expenditures to make sure we have, you know, points, thresholds. Also, where are we at, you know, with ratios, and what are we basing it on? And also, the education part is that sitting down with these variances to educate what are real drivers, you know, and really kind of ask those questions, so we're not maybe doing them here a little longer and see those numbers is the goal of trying to just be better budgeted. I mean, looking at that now, we run cutting something a lot more and be able to give another department what they may need, whatever the case is. However, I got to be fair to the department that I need to know things like routes and 2 trucks, you know, to establish those thresholds. So that is what, you know, my recommendation is for future budgeting, to get closer to actual and base it. But we got to educate them too, because they aren't accountants.
I like Jeremy's idea about, you know, every 300 houses, we
Yes.
need this. I think that's a,
I completely understand. I mean, my background is cost accounting, so I could break it down, you know. You know, I've done that a million times, break out, you know, road infrastructure, layer by layer, piece by piece, from fiber optics to pencils, the whole 9, and what it takes. So that way, when you do put in one personnel, you know that that FT is going to cost you X, Y, Z. Overtime is, you know, justified, and we have a methodology. You know, so that is the, like I said, the cost allocation method too is something that we need to look at and fix, and just have a reason to justify so we can get through. So that's the reason why we're not getting through on some of the things too. Why we can't increase a fee if we don't know what it's covering. You know, I can't sell it. So, like I said, you know, partnering with the divisions, because they do look at it the best they can, and a lot of it too has been that what if, and how do we measure that what if for them, so that, you know, they're more accurate as best as they can be with our expertise helping them out, but then understanding their operations too, you know, because I wouldn't know unless I go out there, you know what I mean, that 2 trucks are running.
Well, in this
Yeah.
scenario, can there be more time? Because I think we all kind of feel like that 60% is high, devoted into those ratios in this particular scenario.
As in, you,
I understand a lot of those look a little high, but as far as the sanitation fund, if you look at their 2 years actuals for overtime, I'd be really concerned about cutting their overtime for next year, considering in the growth that we're in. I know sooner or later they're just gonna have to add a new route with a new truck and some more drivers. They've asked for drivers and we didn't give any positions this year. So, I mean, you can always make that recommendation to cut those overtime, at your second budget meeting, and tell us which departments you feel like is, with the overtime that's too high or it shouldn't be there. But the sanitation fund, I'm not really in agreement that should be cut when I'm looking at their 2 years' worth of actuals.
You said that we didn't give any positions this year. Are you talking
For-
about that
for
specific
sanitation.
department?
Correct.
And with all of our growth, I guess my question is, why wouldn't we?
Because we have an ongoing study right now on solid waste, I didn't want to put any positions until I have that. In addition to that, I'm actually going to contract with Matrix to come in and give me a prescription for how many positions I need for current city services and also a projection of what we're going to need in the future. So that's why I didn't do that. Same thing with police and fire. I didn't want to start piling on positions just because we think we need it until I can prove, like you guys are saying, what's the metric?
I think on the previous one that you did note, we're absolutely, the calculations we can do, the 440, that's the only one I'd submit to you that I'm not comfortable cutting. That I'm definitely not. It just runs high, and that's more of a moving target. Now, I can analyze it to maybe see if we're a little bit like a notch, but I don't really, that's the only one that I would put I wouldn't like to reduce that. If I have to find stronger data right now to validate the overtime, I will. I'll do that for that fund and analyze that, but that one just makes me a little queasy.
Well, the way I personally look at it is we make recommendations, but in the end, I feel you're the expert and that's what you were hired to do. So that's just
No,
how
I
feel.
welcome it. I just, just so that when you sit back and I know like sitting down, we're looking at it, it's like, hey, are we going to recommend something that may have more room? I agree. I just, as you take those recommendations in, we have to have a level of absorption is what was the recommendation. So last year, the city manager was trying to manage and how to run it. And so a lot of these departments that are not getting a lot did get a lot previous year. And now it's like, can we hold? We wanted to hold even further because we didn't want to be close to that line, but there was a need, to, if we didn't do a 3% across the board, we'd go 6% behind the next year.
Right.
So equalizing this, like I said, on previous ones, we can look at that. This one, I just know, is maybe a little bit different caveat. I definitely don't take them just as recommendations. It's just, I don't want to make it seem like the numbers weren't reviewed. It's just some of the development part, it's been going on, way before, like I said, an inception where I had more muscle to it, and these recommendations will help to make it stronger. So that's just kind of, just to throw it out there. But I welcome, like I said, any of the recommendations. It's just that one I wanted to kind of put on the docket as far as it'll make me lose a little bit more sleep than I do. So that's all.
My question, with the sanitation being an enterprise fund, do you have any problems with it as being a going concern? I mean, is there any problems with it, going in the red? And
So, using a little bit of the private sector hat, I'm going to say that when you tell me enterprise fund, it's my little factories out there making my money.
Yeah.
I like to make sure they're hustling for my money too, and that is a concern. And all this wraps up to that. So is it a concern where there's something wrong? No, I just think efficiency-wise, yes, it is something that needs to be looked at. Equipment, is something we can look at, but I really think about are we using our FTEs appropriately? Are we staffed in that way? Are we running that business correctly? Because if it is an enterprise fund, we should run it in that way. I can't say that we are 100% at this point, because I think it's running, it's making us money. I just think, like always, as a finance director, I'm out there hustling, and then I see a 7% return on revenue. I want 10, 12, and continuously growing, just like expenditures grow. That's the goal right now. So I think we need to look at that, not because we're failing. I just think we could be better.
Right.
Like I said, the reporting on that side, I think, is not lack of understanding or not knowing the business. I think it's more, this is how they've done it, looked at it, actuals and stuff, and maybe we just went 1 year versus going 3. And some guidance needs to be on that, you know what I'm saying, to deliver, that those enterprises are doing what they're supposed to do, is till business for the city, so.
In the past, yeah, there's been some questions or concerns about it being a going concern. So that's why I wanted to make sure that, currently you think it is, and that's where we need to be, so.
I mean, I just, will tell you that, it's just common sense, right? You got a little factory out there, it's making little cupcakes, and it should take me, $2 to make it, and I sell it for $4. Can I make it for $1.50, and make $5? That's just the American way, right? So I can't answer that. We're efficiently making top dollar right now.
Right.
So, like I said, I don't think it's broken. I think it works. I just think, maybe a little finesse to the streamlining of that.
Because that intra-government transfer is down, so that's why I just wondered, just question it.
Keep hustling.
Always, sir.
I want a cupcake.
That's right.
Yeah, you're making us hungry.
Eat some snacks now.
I'm out of saliva at this point, so.
153, are we ready to go?
153.
Yep, I'm on 153.
It's all your fault, Jay.
Apologize.
We're gonna be into day 2 of the meeting. All your fault. Yeah, you see.
Okay. Stormwater. Wages increase, 18,014. With that, FICA at 5.3, insurance at 20,222. Workers' comp, 2,065, and then 2,437 for the insurance increase in the element 45. The allocation from finance at 10,003, and then diesel fuel and unleaded at 2,315, an increase. Machinery and equipment increased to the CCTV truck addition, so there's a truck added to storm water. And that is, just kind of looking over here. Yes.
Is the truck necessary?
The biggest thing, like I said, you'll see there's a $458,000 jet back there. That is essential. It actually goes and cleans inlets and makes sure that the pipes are flowing properly. Because like I said, it just as anything, like I said, we just like I said, it's an open system, so you get dirt into it and that sort of stuff, and if you're not cleaning it out, then it will clog up and start causing major issues. So the jetback is something that's essential. The CCTV is the TV truck. It's basically something that we use for inspection for our pipes to make sure that we can get a good understanding of the condition of our assets. And so that is something that we do need to be able to have a better understanding of where our pipes are at. I mean, we have aging infrastructure on the stormwater side also. And like I said, the age of pipes are anywhere from 50 to 75 years, depending on what material it is. And so there are ones that we need to know what conditions they are to be able to make sure that we can adequately be able to budget for future expenditures.
And what kind of pipes would it inspect?
It's the stormwater pipes, that's like I said. So we have, like I said, we have anything from old trees that actually are some of our stormwater pipes that we've pulled out, to plastic, metal, and concrete pipes are all those ones out there. And so it's actually set up, it basically has a big box truck. And in the back of it, it has a recording equipment and video equipment in the back. And then they have basically a little trolley, the little truck-looking thing that goes down there. It's not the same as our sewer ones, because they actually have big rubber tires on there to be able to get over some of the debris and stuff that you actually get in stormwater pipes that you don't encounter in utility pipes.
Are we ready for page 159?
It's a big one.
Building. Increase in staff, the building inspector and building code enforcement officer, overtime 13,000. 38,552 in, due to those positions looking down, FICA, ICMA, health insurance, dental, and disability at 38,500, 48,500, 88,600, 38,20, 25,71. Additional training needed for new and existing staff, 9,875. Increase in technology service for the field staff at 6,008 in comm service and devices. Permitting and contractor mail and freight, 2,000. IVR support cost to include a Spanish option is 66,249. And increase in department vehicles and need, replacement of 6 tires, 12,008. Advertising of the floodplain and track it, 7,398. Increase to promote building safety and customer week, 4,000. Increase needed for contractor workshops and building safety months, events at 3,600. The allocation at 79.5 for the admin charges. Workload and additional vehicles, 11,008 in fuel. Staff professional attire in uniform cost, 7,200. Publications, 13,007 in new code changes, additional memberships needed for floodplain manager and architect. Additional testing and training for new and current staff, 41,790. Pull that one. And additional vehicles needed for added staff and workload, 8,334. Pick and choose. Yeah. Yeah. Building permit fund. Why is he leaving? I'm already for your position.
The training
Yeah, we're good.
is the 290 or 96% increase in the training budget.
Can you pull?
14,000, 8,000, 14,000, now they want to go to 55,000, that's
Can you pull it so I can see what
a little steep.
IAEI chapter meeting is at 6,000. I'm just going to pull the big cost in this training for you. Code Official Institute is 11,880. Yeah. No, it's, yeah, 11,000, sorry, for CPM classes. Leadership training, 3 staff, 4,001. ICC code specialist, that's 1,500. ICC permit tech and other cert test, 3,768. Customer service training, 4,125. 1, 2, 3. three trainings of 4125 at leadership training, employee engagement training, and customer service training.
Did we just never train these people until this year? Because we're looking at 14,
No.
8, and 14, and so now we're deciding, hey, we might need to train these people?
Yes.
So, man, we need to get on the ball. That's kind of crazy.
That's one of the things I've directed staff to train, both certified public manager, customer service. We actually send people to the Disney Institute. We've reduced our customer complaints significantly. We've done a lot of customer service, employee engagement training, and it's really starting to pay off. It used to be a bad reputation in the building department and for our customer service, and we've been able to turn that around. So if you want an educated and efficient workforce, you have to train them. And that's
I'm
what
all for training, but the light bulb just went off and discovered
No, it
that
hasn't. I mean,
that's 14,000 the past, 14, 8, and 14, and now you're wanting $55,000. That doesn't even, does that even sound right? None of your departments,
I was going to say, the biggest thing I see with this department, and I know we've added a lot of staff,
A lot.
but a lot of these increases are well over 100%, 200%, 300%. And then I look where they are at with year-to-date with expenses, and it doesn't appear they're spending much of their budget now, so are we just throwing numbers out, or?
I'm all for training. How do you go, what just clicked? Going, oh, we need the $55,000 from 14,000, 296% increase in your budget. Then we need to readjust. Why are we thinking this way or jumping in all full bore here? It just doesn't make sense why we've decided this year we're going to train everybody
On everything.
on everything today, and here we go. And the next year, we should be just damn fine.
Well, we have had an increase in staff.
How many?
We have employed 4 more inspectors, I believe it is, this year.
Okay.
We've had to send some of them to the Code Institute training. We have other folks, we have another position that's going to be funded. We need to hire a 7th field inspector. So, and each inspector has to have 14 CEUs of education every 2 years to renew their license. So we have to send them to the various different classes because these classes have to be recognized by the DBPR.
We've never sent them ever because we've done 14,000. Now we're going to 55,000. So we just decided, dang, we've forgotten the past 12 years. Boom, let's do it all in one swoop.
No, sir. When you have an increase in staff, it takes an increase in education.
So
And
you've had, what, 12 staff members coming this year? Is that what we're saying?
We've hired 2 permit techs.
Okay.
Those ladies are all now certified through ICC as permit technicians.
Sure.
They went to schools for that. We have other permit techs we intend to hire.
But that's the past budget, your $14,000 budget. That's what you've hired them already, you've paid for their training this year. We're talking about next year going from $14,000 to $55,000.
Right.
2 new employees, you're telling me. So no one else has been trained that whole time? I'm just trying to
No,
curious.
we've hired 4 employees.
I just asked you that, and so 4 now. Well, how many employees have we hired this year? This entire year? 4?
We've hired 4 field inspectors,
Okay.
and we've hired 2 permit techs.
6?
We've hired an architect.
Okay. 7?
floodplain manager.
7 this year.
Right.
All right, so they didn't come in trained or have any certifications coming in the door? Or they need annual certification, I'm assuming?
They have biannual certifications. Every 2 years, they have to have 14 hours.
I get it, I'm just, sit on my side going 296%. Chief, I apologize for your 18% increase there, because 296% is kind of crazy. why we're deciding to do this now.
The other thing we have is the building fund is a restricted fund. We can only spend those funds on the building department. So it seems logical to me if we have this additional funding that we have to spend just on the building department, that we should be the highest trained. And we're a rapidly growing city. I want these guys to be highly trained and effective out in the field. So I think we should make that investment in our employees. And then, again, our customer service has become phenomenal because of the training we invested, the money we invested in training. So that fund, we can sit on it, and we have to spend the money.
Oh, it's just, okay, then we dropped the ball over the past 3 years, and now we're game in, and we're gonna train these people as they should have been trained moving forward. So each year, then we should be seeing this type of money coming in, because I'm assuming he needs more staff, because this stuff's, we're only growing.
Correct. We definitely need more staff.
Yeah, so I get it. I just, again, just suddenly the light went off and we're gonna be training everybody. Should have been trained as we went continuously. 14,000 it is what it is. It's just a lot. No one else is doing 296% increase in their training budget.
Well, also, we've had some turnover in our permit techs. Some of them didn't work out.
I get it.
So those people that had training. So again, as Mr. Sturgeon said, with the building officials we have in place now and our previous building official, we have turned around with public service, public commitment to our customers. And Mr. Sturgeon very rarely gets called now because of the building department, because of the training we've had and the continuing training we're going to have to maintain the excellence that we need. I've had many contractors tell me that St. Cloud is the best place to work in the building, and that's because of the training we give our employees.
Now that you're gonna give them, because apparently we haven't been giving it to them much. Now we're gonna be training them, because right now, $14,000 was your budget of training, and now we're at 55,000. So obviously now we're all in, and I agree 100%. We need to train them, be the best at what we do. Customer service, number one. I'm all for that. It's just,
Well, another portion of the training is we're going to be going into a new permitting program called Track It, which kind of moves along. It's going to be a more technologically advanced program where we can do electronic plan review. So our staff needs to be trained on that. We've sent some of our staff to the permit in the Track It system, but we've got to get all of our employees up to speed on that new permitting system. We don't want it to be a fiasco like Osceola County when they rolled over to a new permitting system. So we want to make sure that when we roll that out, we're fully trained and it operates perfectly for our customers inside and outside.
sounds like a plan.
With our growth, is it normal for these salaries to go up that much? Seems like from 17, keeps going up a lot.
Well, again, our staff has increased.
No, I get that. I'm just saying, is it normal for how fast we're growing? Is that a normal rate, a normal?
Well, looking at the numbers that we did last year, for the entire fiscal year, last year, we did 31,352 inspections. So far this year, which is only 3/4 of the year, we have performed 33,348 inspections. June of 2018, we did 2,732 inspections. June of this year, we did 4,515 inspections.
Same staff,
That was
pretty much,
with our increased staff,
with your increase.
with our increased staff.
Say that's pretty
Prime
dang good
example,
to handle that.
today, we had 253 inspections scheduled for today. One of the weeks, last month, we had over 1,000 inspections for 1 week that we performed.
Definitely sounds like, especially we know we're growing, we gotta increase staff, but I'm assuming you're doing some type of study to confirm what we need and how much we need. So, because yeah, you can hear the increases.
Again,
I could see overtime being understandable because it's just 7 of you, 5 of you, or whatever, but it just seems like we're a little behind on the 8 ball with the training. I think
We have been training, we're going to increase our training. And again, keeping in mind that in January the 1st of 2020, we go into a new code cycle. So then all of our employees have got to be trained up on the changes in the code. So sometimes there's some very significant changes that really impacts our builders. And what our guys are doing too, when they go out in the field, they're also working with the contractors, getting them up to speed on the new code changes so that everything transitions from the old cycle to the new cycle with as little fuss and muss as it can be.
they're the experts, so I get it. We need it. I'm just thinking, well, we should be really on these guys, making them the top dogs instead of now, but I understand we increase staff, so I get it. I just, obviously, sounds like you're well understaffed with the numbers you're coming across, and I know it's only gonna increase. So
I wouldn't disagree with that.
I'd love to see, I'm sure you would love to see more staffing, because it's gonna wear your guys out, and before you know it, people will be calling out sick, and it's just,
We've got a really good staff. Everybody works real good together, supports each other and helps each other out so that we don't get burnt out. We do get tired sometimes, but
those June
everybody's-
numbers tire me out just hearing it. I can't imagine going from 2,000 to 4,000. That's a lot of inspections.
Yes, sir, it was.
And you're already at 33 compared to what you were 31 before, so y'all are
Just-
killing it.
Just to validate his, to answer Mr. Brown's question, so year over year, and the salary margin alone, it's been 8% increase, 7% increase, and a steady 7% increase. So if we take a steady margin of between 7 to 8% increase in salary with the growth that they had at a 1,400 permits a month growth, I think it is, that they've increased just alone in a single month, to keep that salary level, they really haven't, increased where we're looking at a 15% salary increase without building permits not justifying that. So they've held steady between 7 to 8% on salary increase per year, including the 1.2 million that they're requesting now.
No, are we getting fund money coming in from them?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so I'm assuming that's helping, and,
They've exceeded every month.
yeah, so how can when we're exceeding, why aren't we increasing their staff to?
We're using contract employee, we have 2 contract inspector programs, so what you don't want to do is you supplement with the contractor, but what you don't do is hire a bunch of employees, and then all of a sudden we go into a building bust 2 years from now, and I have to lay off 4 or 5 inspectors. So right now, we're maintaining with those contractors to come in and help us do those additional inspectors. The other thing is there's a state statute change this year that people can hire private contractors, and we have to sign off on it now. The state legislature threw that in our plate July 1st. So there's going to be a breakover point that some of these developers may hire privates to do their inspections. So those are the kind of things that we have to consider when we talk about staff.
for?
No, we get an administrative fee, but they pay for it. In other words, they can actually take business away from us as a developer and saying, we're going to hire a private company to do these
As long
inspections.
as they follow our standards,
Correct.
then.
But now
Then that relieves them.
He has to sign off on it, even though he.
All right.
So those are the things we have to consider when we're staffing.
You just brought that up. I got a question. So what about when they get a CO? How does that get to the property appraiser's office? So they can put it on the tax roll if they're gonna be a privatized company? Are they gonna be mandated to give you the completed CO so you can send it to the PA's office?
The CO is issued by the building department, so when a third party or private agency does the inspections, they give us the reports, and they sign off, and then that gets sent in from our department to the property appraiser, so it can be put on the file.
So you're counting on them to give you the CO, or you should be aware that the CO is completed? Because
Right.
you're signing off on it.
They have to give us documentation of all the inspections have been approved.
Right, but then you sign off on the CO on the final. Or
Correct.
do they do it?
As
Is
it-
that your
as-
job,
as
or is
it-
that the third party's job?
As it stands now, they give us a notarized documentation signed and sealed by an engineer that that all inspections have been passed and approved.
Okay.
Then we issue the CO based on that affidavit from a engineer from the third-party agency.
Okay. Interesting.
There's a lot of trust in other companies that aren't being managed by us.
Well, that's why that's why it takes a licensed engineer to sign it and seal it.
I'd still want to do a final. But I get it. Any other questions for him? All right, getting there.
One of those. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Joe.
Well.
164, page 164, vehicle maintenance. 10,277 salary. 4,155 in overtime. Increased wages, FICA, 9,009. Health insurance, due to its cost, 15,864. Allocated admin charges, 15,647. Operating supplies, there's additional laptops and an increased tool allowance, 8,874. And $2,400 in additional subscriptions to maintain new vehicles.
$166.
Health insurance. Increase to cover high-cost claims that are predicted for the upcoming. It's a 5% increase at $212,876. Replace signage as a result of facility assessment. That is $3,000 in repairs and maintenance. And in capital equipment, $15,500 in sprinkler system retrofit and fire alarm install as a result of a facility assessment. And the retrofit on that system is 10.5, and the install is actually 5,000.
$68.
Workers' comp, 25,000 for the recommended levels for the claim coverage. 2,450 on workers' comp for the administrative and state fees that were assessed. A 5% increase is expected in October for actuarial reports and various fees. That's $4,500 for the insurance program and the cost of living. The maintenance, in the maintenance contract category, $10,000. That's a new software contract to track claims. Employee initiative, $2,500. That's a 5% increase due to increase in eligible employees for the incentive.
Since we've been harsh, I think HR did a great job at explaining things. I don't really have anything.
Looking at the agenda. Not seeing anything else. Am I missing anything?
No, sir. You have other schedules that were just for review and capital projects. We can do capital. The other ones were just informative schedules and just FT counts, comparative from the current year to the proposed, just how many, the 5 positions that have been outlined already.
What is the purpose of the 1% fund detail by department?
Oh, the capital line items.
Oh, that's all capital line items.
Yes, ma'am.
Just looking for your capital, I'm just trying to follow the agenda. It seems we stop at a certain thing and I don't see, because then it talks about adjourning the meeting and then going to final, but if there's capital still to be done, then I just don't see it on my,
On the
unless I'm just
agenda?
overlooking it somehow, I'm not seeing.
It was probably included in the departmentals, presentations, but
Yes.
we just
It-
put it in the back of the book, so. If you want to review them, we can review them line item by line item, or we just, at this point, just ask you if you have any questions about the capital projects.
It's on the top, on the, should put it on the capital projects fund in the initial listing to review. Yeah. It's item G, governmental capital projects fund.
This started on page 176.
Yes.
Last two pages. Do you not have them?
I think it's 73 and then it goes to 78.
Yeah, they're a little mixed up because I wanted to put all the capital together in the back. Just go to the last tab that says capital, and it's the last two pages in the book.
No, I have 174, 75.
My suggestion would be review through it. If you got any questions, we can address it, otherwise we'll continue. So just look through it. If you have a question, just ask them. If something stands out to you.
And also on page 21 is a capital projects 300 fund summary of revenues and expenditures, if you just want a bigger, 30,000-foot view of the capital projects fund.
Do we have any questions for capital at all? Are we still reviewing capital? Any questions on this final, or on this stage of the budget? Capital questions, or any questions that we have not covered? Start thinking about if you have any recommendations, and refer to your sheet number 11 at the bottom of the sheet, because we're gonna adjourn this meeting in just a second, and then we'll transition into the final budget meeting, and take a motion and be done. Any questions of them right now? Meeting adjourned. What's it?
Is everybody still behind us? Everybody's gone.
I don't know, I just use that.
Discuss.